I'm in there for 20 seconds. A guy comes out of the showroom. He goes up to one of the servers. He like pushes one of the servers. He goes, 5 years sober. What the F? 5 effing years sober. Pushes him again. I get in between the server and this customer. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on, man? He goes, this idiot served me a Heineken beer. I asked for a Heineken Zero. So one of these servers, after the guy asked him for a Heineken Zero, gave him a Heineken. So this guy was drinking a Heineken during the show. I guess it took him 30, 45 minutes. He was drinking his beer. He apparently was looking at the beer, looking for the 0.0 thing that Heineken Zero says on it, and asked for another one for the server. And the second one that he brought actually was a Heineken Zero, and it said 0.0 on it. So this guy was 5 years sober, and the server made a mistake and gave the sober guy a alcoholic beer. How dramatic is that?
Here we are on beautiful Jones Street.
You saw Ted Jones.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Ted Jones World Podcast. This past Thanksgiving happened. Happy Thanksgiving. I don't know why my door was just open. I got sick over Thanksgiving. And this whole thing, the whole reason I'm vegan, actually not the whole reason, but for those of you who don't know, and I'm happy that I'm saying this in the first 15 seconds of the podcast, I'm vegan. If you guys didn't know, I've been vegan for 5 years. And people ask, Ted, well, why did you go vegan? I had invasive jaw surgery for 6 months. I couldn't chew, so I just slowly transformed into the vegan realm, softer foods, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I would think, and I thought that I can't really get sick. I haven't really gotten that sick. Over the past 5 years, I've had probably maybe 3 or 4 times where I've gotten pretty sick. But this cold that I have and this phlegm that I've had in my throat, it just hasn't been good. And I would be, or I will be, a pioneer. I don't want to say pioneer. My vocabulary, by the way, is not that great. Even after 476 episodes of the podcast, you feel like I would have learned some words. Sometimes my mom's like, Daddy, you should read the dictionary. Or just read more books so you learn more words. But anyway, I would like to think that I'm a proprietor. I don't even know if that's the right word, of being vegan and being like, oh yeah, it's good for your health and everything. But I'm annoyed that I'm sick. I shouldn't be sick, especially since I'm trying to eat less to give my body a chance to heal. Because that's what, you guys ever hear that's what animals do when they get sick or they get hurt? They just won't eat for a day or two to try and give themselves some time to heal. That's an underrated fact. I feel like that should be in fortune cookie when you guys have Chinese food, is that animals will not eat for an extended period of time to try and heal themselves if they're sick or they have an injury. That's actually an interesting fact. You guys can Google that. If you got your phone or you got your laptop up or you're in the car right now, tell the person sitting passenger side to Google that, because that's actually an interesting fact. Now that December's starting, today is December 3rd, and I've been scrolling a lot on the news that I've been reading, aka TikTok. They're saying that something weird is going to happen on December 3rd. But as you guys are listening to this on December 5th, or if you guys are listening to this at a later date, but today it's the release date of this episode, Thursday, December 5th, something weird is supposed to happen on December 3rd, something maybe alien related. And I got to say, I do believe in aliens, and especially since the amount of hype that's really been around aliens for at least the last probably around 100 years, but we've had video evidence of it. We've had scientists, we've had people who work in space talk about it, people who explore the depths of the great deep sea talk about aliens. I think you got to believe in aliens of some sort, and you could think to the point oh, are we in a simulation? I don't know, but you look at video games and how long they've been around and how much they've improved year after year, and then also AI improved year after year. You got to think are we the only things around here? I don't know. That's a deep thought. That's too crazy. We're not going to talk about that. But anyway, okay. As December is here now, you got to think that in most places on the western part of this hemisphere, the weather is a changing, right? But New York during the wintertime is nice. It's nice to have seasons that are changing. But, I think there is such thing as seasonal depression. I would like to think that you can get yourself out of being depressed by doing certain things, maybe the way that you're eating. If you're going to the gym, you're outside walking around, you're not just staying in one place. But if you live in a place that's just the same weather all year round and it's a nice weather and you can walk outside and enjoy the sun, that's got to put you in a better mood. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. If you live in a beautiful environment in the United States, or maybe you live in another country where the weather is just amazing all year round and you still get depressed, but like when it's freezing outside like it is in New York now, it's tough to maneuver and operate. Now, like the building systems that all of us are in, unless you're living in like a new 2024 building development or something that has been built within the last few years, it takes a moment for the heat in the buildings, because a lot of these buildings in New York City are, some of them are like 100 years old. It takes a second for the piping systems in the building to be like, oh man, it's cold in here. All right, we got to turn on the heat. And then the heat becomes 90 degrees and it's like, oh my, okay, wait a second. You got to fix the freaking heat. Speaking of fixing things, man, my mail key doesn't work. And like being in an apartment building that doesn't have a doorman, you got a lot of responsibilities for yourself. I got to check the mail. And I check the mail. I got to be honest with you guys. I check my mail like once every 2 weeks. Okay. Probably the same amount of time that I do laundry, because I don't have laundry in my apartment and I got to go to the people a few blocks away to do the laundry. I'm just carrying a 30-pound bag in 30-degree weather to the laundry people. But my mail key doesn't work. And also, most of the bills that I pay, the electric and my cable bill, those are like the two consistent bills that are just emailed to me automatically. I would say phone bill, but I'm going to be transparent with you guys. I know I'm 33 and 2 weeks old now, 33 plus 2 weeks old, and I'm still on the family phone bill. And I could say that it just makes sense because, you get a discount for the phone bill, but I don't know. Eventually, you know what? And if my mom is listening to this or one of the parents, yes, I would say that I could pay the phone bill. It's not a problem, but I think it's just easier for them to pay it at this current moment since it's all bundled in one package. You know what I'm saying? So, I think most people who have had the phone bill and they're around my age, maybe they have their parents pay for it, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for everyone, but everything is online. Okay, so I don't really feel the need to check my mail. The only time that I would really get some mail that's exclusive is if I'm getting a package of some sort and it gets put in my mailbox, or I'm getting a check, which I guess I am also expecting. But people aren't sending letters. You know what? I would like that. If you guys do want to send me a letter, you you message me here on YouTube or Instagram or Snapchat, TikTok, or whatever the 30 platforms that I post on, and you get my address and you send me a nice letter. I'd appreciate that. I do feel sometimes stressed out about the amount of platforms that there are given the social media stratosphere. There are certain apps that you could probably download on your phone and then you just post the exact same thing to all these apps. But I do feel like there's a personalized level that when you go to these apps specifically and you write a certain caption, maybe you're using hashtags or whatever it is, but there's got to be like at least 10 very prevalent social media platforms that people will use. Some people are big on LinkedIn. Some people don't use LinkedIn. But there are for sure, I'd say 3 to 5 apps that everybody uses. You got to think about Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and then maybe a Snapchat or a LinkedIn or something around those big apps that are worth billions of dollars. And then there's also new apps that are promoted every day. And obviously, I'm not going to forget about YouTube, but people use YouTube all the time. For example, for right now, the only apps, even on the TV that I have that I'm signed into right now, are Amazon and YouTube. But can you consider Amazon a social media app? It has music, but there's no real way to, I guess, communicate with other people. Maybe you can leave comments on videos. I don't even know if you can do that, but you can definitely consider it a media app. And I think social media and media apps together combine themselves. So you're not going to really notice much of a difference, especially in the future. But online and in person, it's meshing together even more and more so. You really do have to have an online presence in any business that you have. Like if you decide that you want to open up a restaurant, which is one of the hardest businesses you could probably decide to open up, especially being in an emerging city, I said emergency, in an emerging city where there's so many options for people to eat. It's just, it's so difficult. You really have to stand out. And unless you have opened a number of restaurants beforehand and you know exactly what you're doing, I don't know. In my opinion, outside looking in, it looks stressful, especially since you have to sign a multi-year lease. You know, you already have so many assets that are going to be depleting starting day one, right? You buy all this food, and then as soon as you buy the food, you only have how long until that food goes bad, right? Especially if you're serving fruit, if you're serving anything, it just goes bad initially. Or immediately, I should say, not initially, but stressful business. But then again, most businesses, if you open up a business, it's going to be stressful. So being an employee working 9 to 5, I don't think it's such a bad thing. I think it gets a bad rap, you know, especially on these social media apps. People are like, oh, you want to work in 9 to 5? Like, yeah, maybe. Sometimes, yes. I think it makes sense some of the time. You want to have a family, you want to have kids, you want to have some time to relax, set time, and you know exactly when you're going to go on vacation, when you're going to be done with work. Yes. I don't think there's any shame in that at all. I don't know why since social media has become huge, it's become a stigma against people working 9 to 5s. But I think 9 to 5 is admirable, man. It's what you're doing out there. It's what you're working on. In the month of November, I did travel a little bit more so than I think I have in a while. I went to Long Island for a few days for Thanksgiving. I went to New Jersey, and I visited Princeton. Oh my gosh, I haven't even talked about this with you guys. So I did Catch a Rising Star, and that is a comedy club in Princeton, New Jersey. As you guys see here, I'm sorry, I'm like wiping my nose a little bit. I feel gross. I apologize. But I went to Princeton, New Jersey, did this comedy club called Catch a Rising Star. They used to have a few of them, one being in New York City on the Upper East Side, I believe, and then they had it in Chelsea. But there's one in Princeton, New Jersey, and it happened to be 0.3 miles away from where I was born. How exciting is that? Actually, matter of fact, I'm going to pop up the video right here that I took. I visited the exact apartment house where I was born, and I lived for 6 weeks. This is very emotional for your boy. Not really, but this is where I was born. Spent 6 weeks of my life here in Princeton, New Jersey. So obviously, you know, I had to get the merch. And then I moved to Manhattan, man. What a life. It's been a while since I've been here, so. And then after that 6 weeks, I moved to 12th Street and Greenwich Avenue. Was it 12th Street? No, I moved to, I don't know if it was 12th Street. I think it was 12th Street and Greenwich Avenue in New York City when I was 6 weeks old. And then I lived there from 6 weeks old to about 6 years old. And then we moved to 18th Street and 2nd Avenue after that, which I lived till I was 18. And then I went to college at UConn. But it was exciting because that was the last time I was in Princeton, New Jersey. So it was a nice little full circle moment. So to talk about that show a little bit, Friday night, I did, oh my gosh. And then I'll also tell you that this juicy story. Okay. So Friday night, I did 27 minutes. I featured for Olga Namer, who I've done many videos with before. If you guys are following me on any of my social media apps, this one included YouTube, or if you're just listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, check one of my social media apps, and you'll see that I've done a lot of Jewish at the blank sketches with her. If it was like Jewish at Whole Foods, Jewish at a restaurant, Jewish on Yom Kippur, Jewish on a date, whatever. We've done a number of videos together. So I did 27 minutes on Friday night. We stayed over Friday night, and then I went around Princeton University. I shot a sketch there pretending to be a university student, which was funny. I did a couple Finance Bro sketches, and then we also did like a Jewish at a hotel sketch, which was fun as well. And then Saturday night did the same amount of time, but Saturday night the show was sold out. It was probably around 80 people there, which is good and solid little turnout. Got back to New York City around, I'd say probably like 11 p.m., which was just in time for me to do a spot on a show, and the show started at 10 p.m., so I was one of the last performers. I walk into the comedy club. This is no joke. This is the juicy part, by the way. I walk into the comedy club after getting back from New Jersey. It took like an hour to get back from New Jersey, so it was all these freaking ailments. Sorry. Okay. So I get back from New Jersey, and as soon as I walk into the comedy club, I walk over to the bar. I'm in there for 20 seconds. A guy comes out of the showroom. He goes up to one of the servers. He like pushes one of the servers. He goes, 5 years sober. You know, and I understand like being that guy. If I was sober for 5 years and I just broke my sobriety for 5 years because a server made a dumb mistake, I'd be so pissed too. But at the same time, then like the owner of the comedy club came over and was like, dude, it's not your fault. It was talking to the customer. You're saying, dude, it's not your fault. You're still sober. And that's apparently, I have heard since I've told the story that in AA meetings, if you accidentally drink some alcohol, you're still known as sober as long as the intent isn't there. And I was just thinking to myself, like, if I was at a restaurant and I ate chicken that I thought was some sort of imitation chicken, I'd be like a quarter of as mad as that guy. And I can understand why that guy would be super pissed, right? 5 years sober, and then all of a sudden he's just like, he had a beer and he was like, oh, well, this beer tastes just like a regular beer, and then orders another one and then actually gets the 0.01. So that guy was pissed, but like, I understand where that guy was coming from. You know, and I think most people did, but it was just like, it was an insane situation. And the timing of it was wild. Just the fact that like, no joke, 20 seconds as I walked into the club, I put my jacket down. I'm standing at the bar. This guy comes out of the showroom. It was crazy. But I mean, it's something you got to pay attention to things in life, you know, and people do silly stuff all the time where you're just not paying attention. But as we do go into the last month of the new year, I wonder what I'm going to have to say about 2025 in my New Year's resolutions. I do think in 2024, I've been very healthy. I've been working super hard on stand-up. I haven't really had that much time to pursue a personal life. And if that's something that you guys haven't done either, I think it is important to try and carve out at least a day or half a day where you do some time for yourself. I've been a victim of not being able to do that sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, I want to work, or I gotta work, I gotta do this, this opportunity, that, gotta put out videos, whatever it is. But yes, it's important to hang with your family or friends or people who you just associate with. That's what I think is important for 2025. I mean, this by far was the most amount of stand-up sets that I've done in an entire year. And as the closer we get towards the end of the month, I'll calculate how many spots, by spots, I mean stand-up comedy sets that I did do this year. I'm going to include open mics because I do think that even though open mics are 5-minute sets, it does count to get on stage, and there are people watching, there are people potentially laughing, or there are people laughing and giving you positive or negative feedback on things that you're working on. So I will count that as a set, but I imagine the amount of times that I've gotten on stage this year is probably going to be around, considering like from January till the end of March, probably wasn't that many. I mean, January to the end of March, maybe I got on stage probably like 35 to 45 times, something like that. But then from March until the end of the year, I really did get on stage a lot. So we'll see how many times. But I imagine it's probably going to be around maybe 400. We'll see. Is that too much? Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I imagine it will hopefully be over, like an average over one show a day, but 400 might be a little much. But this past month of November, I got on stage around 50 times, which I think was a good amount of time. So we'll see. We'll see. But being in New York, you know, it's great. You just have the ability to do many different things, and things move quickly, and that's the way I like it. You know, when I'm in Long Island for 3 nights, I'm like, all right, I'm geeking. I'm ready to go back to the city. Friday morning, I was on the train on the LIRR, ready to come back. You know, having the potential C word, you know, the sickness. Isn't that also crazy? If you think about anyone who didn't get the shot, like 4 or 5 years ago, you'd be like, that person is so irresponsible. Now we're looking back and being like, was that person irresponsible or was that person right for them not to get the C19 shot? You know what I mean? Like you look at influential people like guys like Novak Djokovic. I don't know if you guys know Novak Djokovic or know of Novak Djokovic rather, tennis player, probably the greatest tennis player of all time now. He didn't get the shot and he was very adamant about getting it, about not getting it. He was not allowed entry into Australia to play the Australian Open one particular time. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about this. And then, the election, the results of the election are out, and we'll see what's going to happen with this world going forward, man. Hopefully there's no World War III. I'll tell you that. That would not be good. That would not be good because there's a lot of problems all over the world, man. And a guy like me, I do feel blessed that I'm able to just talk into a microphone. You guys are listening and whatever, if you're sharing this. And being a stand-up comedian, part of it is very hard, but a lot of it is rewarding. So I really do appreciate that. And especially having the opportunity every Monday to do anywhere between 17 and 22 minutes of a stand-up comedy set is... it's cool. I appreciate doing that. So if you guys like an opportunity like last night, okay, so we'll talk about last night, Margarita Monday. For those of you who don't know, Margarita Monday is every single Monday at 8 p.m. at the Comedy Shop. You guys can check the link in this video, or if you're listening to this podcast, you check the link there at the bottom of this description and you click on it and you can reserve tickets down there. But it's interesting because every single show is so different. You can basically have the exact same set and an audience will react different each particular show. Maybe those particular audience members are there to see you and they are pumped because they are deciding that a week in advance that they're going to see a comedian or a particular comedian. They're going to see Ted Jones. So they're excited, ready to laugh. Or in a situation like last night, there were people who booked the show, but it seemed like they booked the show because they heard about it through the internet. So there were 8 European people there that were all on a foreign exchange trip. And they were just, for the most part, they were smilers. They weren't really laughers. So there were around 20 people at the show and 8 of them dominating the front row, just being smiles. The vibe wasn't great. I mean, they were fun. They were cool people. They were very nice people, but each comedy show is different, and that's what's so unique about comedy, especially going to a showcase type show. A showcase is where you have a number of comedians doing X amount of time on a show, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. Like last night, I did 21 minutes, but you go to a show and you see a few comedians. That's what a showcase show is. So showcase shows, you never really know what kind of audience you're going to get. If it's a headliner show and you're going to see one particular person, that's more of a crowd that the kind of a reaction you're going to get. So all comedians want to work up to the point where you're a headliner and people are coming to see you specifically. And that's when it gets a lot easier, is when the room is hotter. So the room is ready to give you positive feedback right away. But last night was fine. As you guys know, or I've spoken about on many podcasts previous to this one, is that I'll grade my sets. So in this particular instance, I probably gave myself a B-, which wasn't great. I wasn't feeling great. Coughing a little bit, had a couple of espresso beans before I went on stage, but it was just it was fine. It was whatever. And which is interesting now because I had friends who came to see the show and my performance wasn't that great. So I was like, oh man, I wish they came to a show that was a little bit better. But you can't always get the best show of your life every single night. That's not just how it works. But stand-up comedy is like that. Every single show is different. You could feel that you did well, but the crowd just wasn't reacting to it. Maybe a comedian will say, oh, I bombed at a particular time. But I do think when you think of the term bombing on stage, that means the crowd doesn't like you, right? It doesn't mean that you did bad. I think it just means the crowd doesn't like you. You didn't have a good set. And I think that sometimes the comedians will use that term too much. And I think comedians, we're hard on ourselves. Because that's part of the bit. Is you're going up there, you want laughs, you want people to like you. It's not to say that people don't like you off stage, but you do want people to like you, and you want people to have a good time with whatever you're saying on stage. You want people to react and listen well to what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Especially like on a podcast like this. You know, as we wrap up this episode, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you always for the continual support. TedJonesWorld@gmail.com. Ted at TedJonesWorld.com. Ted at Ted Jones World Productions. We got a lot of emails. Check me out on social media. DM me, whatever. And we're going to continue on this journey. I'm pumped for 2025, although it's not quite around yet. But yeah, as the months go on, you know, so does life. And hopefully nothing weird happens, by the way, on the day that I'm recording this. All right? Guys, thanks so much for tuning in, as always. And we'll see you next time. Stay safe. Be well. We'll talk. Bye.